Hello friends, welcome back to Java session, and in today's first session we'll be discussing about data types. As we already discussed about some basic data types, means like integer, float, character, string and all, but I'm not talking about that data types, right? Data types means basically in Java we convert that data types, we categorize the data types into three types. One is local, right, which is local to method body, that is called as local type of data type, right, which is having a scope inside a method body, whether it's a main method or it's a local method. Okay, and the second one is your instance. Now this is declaration is in a class, but it is a non-static type of data. Its declaration is not in the method body, it will be on the in a class, right, but it is a non-static type of data. And the third is your static type of data, right. Now static means it's again declaration is in class, but it is a static type of data. It means it is a class type of data, right? It belongs to class, not to any method, but it's a static type of data. So all objects will share the common copy of it, right? And here in this case, in instance type of data, every object having individual copy of it. Copy of instance data. And in case of static, all objects will share a common copy of this type of data. Means the data types will be the basic data types what we discuss about integer, character, float, that is okay, but like now as per the their scope, if they have a scope inside a method body, then it becomes a local type of data. That data can be termed as a local type of data. Then second is instance type of data, means its declaration is in a class, not in the method body, right, but it's a non-static type of data. There is no keyword static used in that. That is called the instance type of data. And such instance type of data means every object, right, created of that particular class will having a separate individual copy of it, right. They are not sharing the copy of instance type of data over there. And the third is your static one. So declaration is inside a class, okay, but it's a static type of data, means all objects will share the common copy of it, right. And like means like if one object updates the certain value, then that updated value will be passed on to the another objects. So means rather it's like it's a data belong to class, not to the object over there, right. Hope you got the idea clear about the basic three types of data, that is static, local and instance, right. Okay, so to understand it by example, let us understand, like if we have a class ABC which consists, let's say int a equals to 50. This is not belong to any method, so it's an instance type of data. And if you have a static int b equals to 40, it's a static type of data. And if you have a method like public void f1, and in that method if you have a variable called as c equals to 10 or something, so this is your local data, right? You got my point? Means basically after declaring variables, data types will be categorized in three: local, instance and static. Local means local to the method body, like this C variable, right, which is local to the method body. Yes, if you have a main method also, whatever the list of variables which you declare in a main, termed as local variables only. Now apart from the method's data, if you declare a variable in the scope of a class, right, so it will be categorized in two. One is instance type, means if it is not preceded by static, then it's an instance type of data, and if it is preceded by static, it's a static type of data, right? This is what the distinguish between the data types in Java, right? Okay, now after understanding data types, let us have a discussion on basics of OOP using Java. As you know that Java is a complete object-oriented programming language, so everything in Java is in the format of class and object, right? So first thing, whatever the problem definition given to you, you need to define a class for it, right? And class consists private data, right? Because to protect the data, to achieve the data security, they recommend the object-oriented programming module, and hence class should the data of class should be wrapped in a class in a container, and it has to be private. It is not accessible publicly because of in case of structured and procedural programming languages, because of global data, the wear and tear of data is possible because it was accessible everywhere else. So to avoid or to provide the data security, right, and avoid the data insecurity occurred in the structured and procedural programming languages, they recommend to go with the data security with the class paradigm. Now inside class, whatever data you are declaring, you have to declare it as a private, and to initialize this private data, you should have a constructor, right? What is constructor? One, it's a method having same name as a class name, right? It invokes at the time of object creation, and hence as it is useful to construct a copy of an object called as constructor, right? And it is useful for initializing private data belongs to class, right? And the next is, there are constructor types. There are three types of constructor actually. One is default, that is called as constructor without argument, right? And then there is a parameterized, means constructor with argument, right? And the third is copy constructor. What copy constructor will do, it will take exist object as an argument and initialize current one, that is called as copy constructor. Means in a class it consists of private data, right? Let's understand you have a private data like this, int a comma b. Now to initialize this private data we have a constructor. What is constructor? It's a method having same name as a class name. It invokes automatically or it invokes at a time of object creation, and hence it is useful for constructing a copy of object, and hence it is called as constructor. Means constructor, why constructor? To initialize the private data belongs to class or belongs to object rather, right? And initializing private data belongs to class. This is the motive behind writing constructor. Now constructors are divided in three types. One is default constructor without argument, parameterized constructor with argument, and copy constructor. It will take an exist object as an argument and initialize the current one. For example, as I said, if you have a class ABC and you have a three private data a comma b comma c, right? Then as class is a prototype, you are not supposed to initialize the private data belong to this. So what we need to do, we need to define the public constructor, right? Here if you have a constructor without argument called as default constructor, right? Now there is actually no use of default constructor. It will, it's like as it is no arguments over there, so it will initialize it by 0 and something, right? By 0, and then ABC. Then you have the parameterized one. It will take the values from the user, and with this inputted values, it will initialize the private data belongs to class. Now these ABCs, ABC are the local arguments, local values. Just whenever you give a call to it pass on the values of ABC, and by these values you have to initialize the private data belongs to class. So here we are using this. What is this? This is the object reference, which is referred to current object. This dot a equals to a, this dot b equals to b, and this dot c equals to c. What it means whenever you create the object, you pass on the values as an argument. This a, b, c become local values, and this and by these local values you have to initialize the copy of current object. Now here object is not accessible over here, so this is a object pointer, right? It is referring to the copy of an object. This dot a equals to, as constructor is constructing the copy of an object, this dot a equals to this local a, this dot b equals to this local b, and this dot c equals to the local c. In this manner you can able to construct the copy of an object by using parameterized constructor. This is your parameterized constructor. And then let's discuss the concept of a copy constructor. Now in case of copy constructor, as I said, it takes the exist object as an argument. Let's say d, and then here in this case this dot a equals to d dot a, this dot b equals to d dot b, and this dot c equals to d dot c. Means here we pass on the exist object as an argument, and by that exist object's copy, we are initializing the current object's copy, and hence this is called as copy constructor. Now let's understand, as ABC is a class, right? If you want to construct the object of ABC, then ABCD equals to new ABC. It's a call to the default constructor, right? So the copy of D will be initialized ABC. Look at how we can get the object ABC D equals to new ABC. New is the operator which gives the call to the default constructor, right, and allocates the memory to it. So ABC is a default one, so nothing definition is written inside. So it will initialize the values of this private data belongs to the 0, right? And then if you are calling like this, ABCD equals to new ABC of 10, 20 and 30. Now here in this case it's a call to the parameterized constructor. It's a call to the parameterized constructor. So these 10, 20, 30 values will be assigned to this ABC, and by that values you are initializing the private data belongs to ABC class, right? So the copy of D or any other object, let's say instead of D we are saying E, the copy of E object will be initialized by 10, 20 and 30. So E dot A become 10, E dot B become 20 and E dot C become 30. Get my point clear? And the next one is, let's say if you got a ABC F equals to new ABC of E. Now here in this case the copy of exist object E will be passed on as an argument, and then here it will assign to D, and it's D become the reference to the E, and this F actually to F this object reference is referring. So here F dot A, here actually F dot A equals to E dot A. But as we are in the method definitions, D is referring to E and this is referring to F, because F and E objects are in the different scope. You get my point clear? So in this manner, the default constructor, parameterized constructor and the copy constructor works, and these all the constructors are actually developing, constructing an copy of an object, and hence it is called as constructor. Now one more point we need to think of, we need to have regarding the constructor, that is, as it is constructing or initializing a copy of an object, not process the data, hence constructor don't have return type. Constructor don't have return type like methods. Try and understand that constructor is also a method, but it don't have return type. Like we stated like public and ABC, right? And in case of methods we are writing public int f1, means like every method have a return type, but constructor don't have a return type because its definition is to initialize the data. Right? It is not processing the data, and method is wrote for the reason of processing data. As it processes the data, it should have a return type. As constructor is not wrote for processing data, it don't have a return type over that. Right? Hope you understand the concept of a constructor as well. Now let us discuss this basic OOP concept using examples. So I am going to write the first program, OOP program rather. This like, let us understand a simple example. Write OOP code to add two numbers to perform all possible arithmetics with that. If this is the question, means like if this question is basically structure-oriented programming, related to structure-oriented programming, then we'll input the data and perform all the arithmetics to that. But now this is related to the object-oriented programming, and we need to write the complete OOP code. Which complete OOP code means which follows all the protocols, all the like grammar of OOP. In such situations, data has to be private. We should have a constructor to initialize the private data, and we should have a methods to process this all the tasks we need to perform. Right? Let us write a OOP code to add two numbers to perform all possible arithmetics. Let's say. First of all, import the data. Import java.lang.start and import java.util.start to take the input from the user. And if I am developing a class called as demo OOP, right? Demo OOP is a class I am building over there. Now it will, as it is a complete OOP code, so it will not start from the main. So what I'm going to write, I have to define the private data. Let's say the question what I'm going to solve over here is to add, I need to add two numbers, like write an OOP code to perform, write OOP code to perform all possible arithmetics with two numbers. Right? Write an OOP code to perform all possible arithmetics with the two numbers. So my means like to perform arithmetics with the two number, I need the two private data. So I'll go with the int a comma b. Right? This is about the private data. I'm going to follow all the norms belong to the OOP. So I'll be writing a constructor over here. This is default one, no definition, and then I'm having a, in case of Java, default writing default constructor is not required also. But anyway, right now we are understanding this everything related to the basics of OOP. So let's write the do nothing constructor as well, that is for the default constructor. And then int a comma int b, these are the two values we get as an arguments, and by that values you are initializing the private data belongs to class. This dot a equals to a and this dot b equals to b. Now this is referring to the current object, right? So now you define even the constructors. Constructor definition. After that, you need to define all the methods to process arithmetics, like public integer add, right? And I may write return this dot a plus this dot b, right? And then I'll make a comment like methods for performing arithmetics, right? So I'm having a add method, then in the similar manner I will develop a subtract method. As this is simple type of methods I am writing, so I am making copy paste of it, having similar type of operation. Then I am developing a method for multiplication. Then I am developing a method for division. Then I am developing a method for modulus. Then I am developing a method for compare. It's like if this dot a is more than this dot b, right? Then return this dot a, else return this dot b, sort of, right? So it will return the greatest value among the two numbers. So now all the methods required to perform arithmetics are I already written here, like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and as this is very simple example, I'm going to explain you. Example is simple to just perform arithmetic with two numbers, but this example is going to elaborate you the complete process or complete program structure of the OOP over there. So to follow the complete program structures, class should be have a private data, then constructors, and then the methods to process the data. After writing that all the methods, then you need to go to the main. Right? In case of object-oriented programming paradigm, it's a bottom to top programming approach. Means the entire logical part about the data, constructor, methods you will write on the top, and then you need to go to the main over there. Up till now, whatever programs we wrote, that was starting from the main. Right? So it is a top to bottom approach, but now in OOP we need to follow the bottom to top programming approach. Okay, I'll explain the things in why we are following that, or what advantage rather we'll get it over there. Anyway, as you are inputting the data of two numbers, so you need to initialize scanner class. Scanner sc equals to new scanner. Now in last topic we discussed about data input techniques. You can take an input from the scanner, you can take an input from the buffer, or you can even take an input from the command line arguments as well. System.in, and then you prompt the user system.out.println. You need two numbers for performing arithmetic, so you prompt the user like enter first number, and then int a equals to sc dot next integer, and then you'll prompt the user to enter the second number. Right? And then you input the two numbers, then you create the object of your demo OOP class. Right? Demo OOP dm equals to new demo OOP, and pass on this a comma b as an argument. It means dm become the object of demo OOP, and you pass on this a and b local variables. Local means why I am saying local variables, because it belongs to man, the local data as an argument to this demo OOP. So the inputted values will be passed on as an argument here, and then by that values the private data belongs to class. Right? It's an instance type of data get initialized over there. Right? And then after that, now you can able to give a call to all the methods for arithmetics. System.out.println, addition, you can write dm.add. Add is a method for the addition over there. So it will return the additive copy and print over here. Here in a similar manner, you can repeat the call to all the methods. Subtraction, multiplication, then we got a division, then you have a modulus, and then you have a comparison, means greatest among these, that is common. Right? So now as per the program's requirement, your entire code is ready with you. You construct the class demo OP, got the private data, you got the default and parameterized constructor, and you have the methods to perform all the possible arithmetics with the two numbers. And then we need to save this demo OOP class. Right? You saved it in the in a Java test, demo op.java, and go to the command prompt. Okay. cmd, and then switch to D, cd Java test, and javac. What's your class? Actually your class is demo oop. So javac demo oop.java, and you need to compile it and then run it. Java demo oop. If you run it, it will ask you enter first number. If you say 5, if you ask second number, if you put 7, then the addition is 12, subtraction is -2, multiplication, division, multiplication, and then modules and everything. You get my point clear? If you input another number, like first number is 10, second number is 3, you will get the result like this. It's like what we discussed, that how to write the complete OOP code, because now onwards, whenever you are initially the programs what we tested and tried, that were not actually belongs to the OOP paradigm, though it was main method was wrapped in a class, but we start with the main. But now here in this case, whatever the column definition given to you, you have to firstly create the private data, declare the private data. Then by using constructor you need to initialize them, and then by using methods you need to process that data, and then in this manner you are giving call to it, right? Okay, hope you understand the first OOP code. Let us discuss one another example on the same OOP. Okay, the question is given to you that read a number to find factorial of it. But it's a OOP code we need to write, because we already write that particular factorial process and all, but we need to write the code which follows the complete OOP paradigm. Right? As we know about the factorial, n factorial equals to n into n minus 1 up to 1. So I'm importing, let's say import your java.lang.star. Then you need to import the input API like java.util.star. As I am focusing on the more towards OOP, I'm not using that IO or buffer or the command line. We already discussed in the prior sessions. So let's say I'm developing a class called as facto. Now to find the factorial of any number, I should have one private number. Then I'm having a public facto constructor, and I'll get the data from the user, and then this dot n equals to n. Hence by the local values passed on by the user, the current object's copy will be initialized. Then I need a method for finding factor. Like let's say I'm developing find facto is a method, right? And what this method will do, obviously find factor method will returns the integer value, right? Because resultant factorial will be written over here. Then int f equals to 1, I'll write the process for factorial, while the this dot n remains more than 0. Right? What we need to do, f into equals to this dot n, right? Which is a short expression of f equals to f into this dot n, and then you can write this dot n minus. You reduce the value of n continuously by 1, and then the cumulative multiplication value will be written up, right? Return f. Now you have a find factor. Now you go to the main, right? And you create an object of a scanner. Scanner is equal to new scanner system.in, get the input, ask the user to enter a number, right? And then int n equals to sc dot next integer to take an input. And now to find the factorial of that particular number, as that factorial is going to return the value over there, I can straightaway directly call in the system dot out dot println number is n, right? And its factorial is, now we have a we need to create the object of factor to call it. So facto f equals to new factor and pass on this in as an argument, right? And is a locally variable argument. And here in this case you write f dot, the method is find factor method, right? So as this n value will be passed on to the constructor as an argument, it will initialize the current object's copy. Current object copy means current object is your f. Its copy will be initialized with a local n. And after that, f dot find factor will give a call to the find factor method, and then it is written f value. Now here that factorial value will be written up, and you can able to print it over there. Let's cross check this. Okay, I'm going to save it by facto dot java, and then go to the folder and javac facto dot java and java factor. If you run it, it will say enter a number. The factorial of 5 is 120, factorial of 6 is 720, factorial of 4 is 24, etc. Right? So if you look at the code over there, what you find, because I'm trying some basic and simple examples, right? Class facto, private data, constructor, method to process, and then you go to the main, read the value, create the object, and then you call to the method over there. This is how we can follow the complete architecture of your OOP code over there. Okay. Now let us, like here what I write, I am having class facto, at the same time I have private data, constructor, find factor method, and main method is also belong to that. Let us assume that okay, this main method is a part of this facto. Let's cut it and write a like a test factor class, right? Means there is a separate class called as facto, class facto, private data, constructor, method. That's it. And then in the test facto class we have a main method, and we read the object. So now while you have the two classes over here, local class facto as well as test facto. So you cannot save the project by the facto in such situations. You have to save the project by the test facto, right? You have to save the project by the name of a class which consists main method, right? And then javac your test facto, right? If you try to run the or compile facto now, then it will compile, but at the time of run it will say that it will there is no main method available, right? So javac test facto dot java, and then java test facto. The same result you will get over here. The factorial of 5 is 121, right? What we did, I just write the complete OOP code, class facto, private, constructor and all. But like I'm not writing a main method inside, okay? Because I want to refer this class in some other class. So I am having another class which consists main method, but I want to give a call to the methods belong to the facto class only. So you create the object of it and then give a call to it over there, right? That's it for a day. I'll be mailing with the assignment list as per the discussions. What we started our discussions about the data types, local, your static and instance one, and after that I discuss about the complete OOP paradigm, where I discuss about the private data, default constructor, parameters constructor, copy constructor, and how to follow the bottom to top approach to solve the programs over there. Right? Thank you.